every week I go in and I pull out my top 15 priority ads and I rank them in the article. And for this video, I pull out a few of the choice selections that are somewhat interesting to me, and I break them down a little bit here in the video. Make sure you keep liking and subscribing, commenting, all that good stuff. And if you're not a subscriber to fantasypoints.com, you can use the promo code GURIFIC25 to save 25%. That is Gurific like terrific. It's a long story. Never mind if you've never heard of that. All right, well, let's get into it here. I'll kind of go by position, and I do want to mention at least one quarterback, and that will be Sammy Howell, who I did pick up in that league that had me frustrated last week with Daniel Jones and Darren Waller. I did pick up Sammy Howell. I started him in week 5, and he did pretty darn well, certainly better than Daniel Dimes. I also did talk about Josh Dobbs, who didn't have a great game, but I still feel pretty good about Josh Dobbs. Sam Howell is hanging in there. It's not a very good offensive line, but what it is a good offense, thanks to Eric Bieniemy, who is calling some good games here and scheming open guys and getting the ball to Logan Thomas. Look how great Logan Thomas looked last week. And the last 2 weeks, Curtis Samuel. I would argue that the Washington Commanders have a better passing game this year than the Kansas City Chiefs. And yes, I'm very pissed about Matt Nagy. We'll get into that. But Sam Howell, like I said, hanging in there. I do think his margin for error is pretty small. I don't think we're out of the woods. I don't think he's matchup proof yet. He could lay an egg like it looked like he was going to in week number 5 in that bad first half. But he will run. He does have plenty of weapons, and he does have a pretty decent schedule. Atlanta this week. That's not the best matchup in Atlanta. That could be a little tricky. Then he's got the Giants, Eagles, Patriots, Seahawks, Giants again. That's not bad. Cowboys in Dallas, you may want to avoid there. Miami bye week, Rams, Jets, Niners. So we're not going to be counting on Sam Howell for the fantasy playoffs, unfortunately. Let's move to running back, and the waiver wire will be somewhat hopping here, depending upon the status of James Conner in Arizona with the Cardinals, who suffered a knee injury in week number 5. Now, on Monday, the Cardinals did sign Tony Jones Jr., who was there in New Orleans. So that could be a sign that James Conner's injury keeps him out a little bit. I did not get an update on Monday evening as I record this video, but Amari DeMarcado looked pretty darn good last week. I finally got a chance to see the guy. I did see him a little bit at TCU last year. He did pretty well for them down the stretch in the college football playoffs. In fact, he ripped off a very long run that helped ice the game for TCU over Michigan. Pretty good, solidly built dude, 5'9", but 215. He was starting to emerge as the third down back and the changeup, kind of a hurry up like a Jalen Warren type. But if we don't have James Conner, and Keontae Ingram has been dealing with a neck issue and he's been inactive the last couple of weeks. If we don't have James Conner, I think we are looking, believe it or not, for Amari DeMarcado, the undrafted rookie out of TCU. We're looking at like a Kyron Williams-like role here, which was evident already in week number 5, in which he got 10 carries for 45 with a touchdown. It looked pretty good. He had a 12-yard catch on 3 targets, 12.7 fantasy points right off that bench for James Conner. And the offense is very capable in Arizona with Josh Dobbs leading the way. So Amari DeMarcado could be a thing here. Rams, Seahawks, Ravens, not the greatest schedule. But again, I have some confidence in Josh Dobbs with this Arizona Cardinal offense here. Well, skipping around a little bit, don't want to name every single player, but I did also want to delve into the backfield here for the Chicago Bears, who had that injury to Khalil Herbert in week number 5 on Thursday. And per the NFL Network, he is expected to miss a couple of weeks here, multiple weeks, could be a high ankle sprain. They do have the Minnesota Vikings this week. That's not the greatest matchup, but certainly overall, it's a pretty good matchup. Raiders, Chargers, after that, pretty darn good here for the Chicago Bears. If they don't have Khalil Herbert now, this is a little tricky because we do have Roshan Johnson getting concussed in week number 5. To my knowledge, there's been only one running back who was in the concussion protocol, and then that same week was cleared to play and played. That was Gus Edwards. Now, this could be a little different with Roshan and the Bears playing on Thursday, so we could get Roshan Johnson back. So I don't know the update there on Roshan or Khalil Herbert for that matter, but I do think Roshan would be the guy for the long term, more of a long term play, of course. Could get Khalil Herbert back in a couple of weeks. So I think the pickup for week 6 could be Deontay Foreman. Again, it could be a committee with both guys, but Roshan for the long term, but Deontay Foreman for week number 6, because it's been pretty clear here with Deontay Foreman the last couple of years. He had a couple blow up monster games last year with the Carolina Panthers, completely game script dependent. One of the most game script dependent backs in the league the last couple of years, along with Derrick Henry. But if his team does win, my man gets volume and he tends to rip off longer runs and he gets it done, scores touchdowns and all that. So against the Minnesota Vikings, Deontay Foreman, certainly worth a pickup this week. Again, don't know about Roshan. I would go Roshan overall over Deontay Foreman, but he might be owned in your league. He's owned in about 50% of Yahoo leagues, maybe just under 50%, whereas Deontay Foreman only owned in 7% of Yahoo leagues. So a pretty good stash and grab here on the waiver wire. You're stashing him and you're just hoping that Roshan, well, we hope Roshan gets well soon. He's a great dude. I interviewed him at the Combine, but you are hoping if you have Deontay Foreman that he is out in week 6. And then Foreman is probably going to get 20 carries here against the Minnesota Vikings, or let's say 20 touches. He is not known for his work in the passing game, but I did talk to a Bear insider, someone who covers the team this summer, who watched him in training camp, said he actually did a good job catching the ball in camp. So did Khalil Herbert, by the way, which probably was the reason, or one of the reasons why he's starting to get the ball a little bit in the passing attack this year before the injury. Let's move on to wide receiver. Now, look, we can do a whole video on the Kansas City Chiefs receiving core. It is the weirdest thing I have ever seen. Hell, we're going to do a documentary, I am, at the end of the year on Sky Moore, the curious case of Sky Moore. It's right up there with curious cases along with Benjamin Button, because, you know, I'm not the only one who was talking up Sky Moore this summer. From all accounts, he was kind of the star of the offseason and at least one of the stars of training camp. And the dude was locked into a large role. I don't get it. It's the weirdest thing ever, like I said. But let's move on, because Sky Moore is the only thing I really got wrong when it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs receiving core, believe it or not, because over the last 2 years, I've been of the opinion that Juju Smith-Schuster was done, that Mecole Hardman stunk, that MVS stunk, and Justin Ross even probably too risky for my taste here. Dropped a couple of balls in week number 5. But I also did like Rashee Rice as a prospect. Now, I didn't expect much from Rashee in this Andy Reid offense because, look, it's rare that rookie wide receivers do well. But I think he's standing out for sure the last couple of weeks. And I think clearly when we're looking at Kansas City Chiefs, someone has to emerge among this quagmire, and it's absolutely should be Rashee Rice. A couple of weeks ago, he just missed scoring a couple of touchdowns and coming off his best performance of the year, 4 grabs for 33 with a touch on 5 targets, only a 12% target share. But hey, in KC, you're a rich man with a 12.5% target share, 13.5 fantasy points against Minnesota. He's got inside, outside versatility for sure. I certainly liked watching him at the Senior Bowl my guy Brett Whitefield, our guy here at fantasypoints.com, turned me on to Rashee Rice. He was one of Brett's favorite guys. So I paid attention to him closely in Mobile and absolutely liked what I saw. Separation was a little bit of a question, I guess, about him, but he plays with a lot of physicality. And I do love Brett's quote from our prospect guide, which you can still access at fantasypoints.com, by the way, if you go under research and news. But anyway, the prospect guide, check it out. You'll find it. But here's a quote on Rashee Rice about his physicality, ability to mix it up and all that. Rice is the embodiment of an alpha dog at the receiver position. He wants, quote, all the smoke all the time, unquote, and he will not back down. I actually shared that exact quote with Rashee Rice when I interviewed him at the Combine. He loved it. Great kid, by the way. Very pleasant young man off the field, but kind of a dog on the field. And like I said, Kadarius Toney is showing some signs of life and getting some targets. So, we'll see about him, but I'm not counting on him. We can't count on anybody else. They don't throw it. Patrick Mahomes does not throw it to Sky Moore. He does, though, throw it to Rashee Rice, who should be a good pickup. So I'll wrap it up here. By the way, last week's video, I waxed poetic about one Dalton Schultz, who was a top 5 tight end in week number 5. He's still available in like 30 plus Yahoo leagues. So Dalton Schultz, I think, is got a real chance to stick as a tight end 1. Logan Thomas, too. Man, he looked great last week under Eric Bieniemy. That'll wrap up this little week 6 snippet sample of the waiver wire report, available up at fantasypoints.com. Very detailed analysis. Once again, if you want to subscribe to the website, Gurific25, save yourself 25%. Good luck working that waiver wire. Good luck in week 6, and we'll catch you next time.